Hey everyone, greetings back here in Brno in the Czech Republic. I hope everyone's doing all right. These quarantine measures, I guess, are up. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, so my apologies for all of you Moravian wine fans out there. There have been obviously some current events back in the US that have been diverting the majority of my attention. In addition, earlier this week, I am really sad to say we lost our kitty cat, Stout, to a battle with cancer. And so the past few weeks have been a bit trying personally, but I really wanted to jump back into these Moravian wine videos because there are a lot of wineries to cover in this area, and I've barely scratched the surface. So I figured I need to talk about a winery that is inspiring and makes delicious juice. So today, for today's video, I'm going to talk about Dobrá Vinice, which is a biodynamic winery located in Nový Šaldorf in the Znojmo subregion of South Moravia. And it's only fairly recently that I've been trying some of these wines. I haven't really seen them around wine shops, so I think a lot of the sales are really cellar door sales. That's how I picked up these bottles here. I contacted the winery a few weeks ago. So these bottles have been sitting in our spare room, and I have been thinking about showing them, and I just never felt that it was really appropriate, not in the past few weeks at least. But I wanted to talk about these wines because there's so much natural wine talk going on in the next few months here in South Moravia, and Dobrá Vinice plays a critical role in this natural wine movement here in the country. So going into a little bit about their winery, so they are the OGs of natural wine in South Moravia. So they've had vineyards since the late 90s. Currently, they farm 15 hectares in the Znojmo subregion with a few hectares in the Velké Pavlovice subregion. But these winemakers are legit. So the head winemaker, the founder of the winery, is Petr Nejedlik and his wife, Andrea. And so together, they make delicious, interesting, exciting biodynamic wine. And what separates biodynamic wine from some of the more commercial wines you might find in the shop or supermarket is biodynamic winemaking is difficult. It is really risky, but it takes a lot of courage to make this style of wine. So biodynamic wine is bringing it back to the basics. So using all organic practices in the vineyards, there is not a chemical touch to these grapes in the vineyards. They use horse manure and cow manure as natural fertilizers. They only, like I said, farm organically. They keep the yields really low. They believe in the true expression of the grape and the terroir. And I'm so excited to have these wines on video today. So if you are interested more in biodynamic wines, I'll list a link here with a little bit of information about it. But it's a pretty interesting way to look at viticulture and winemaking. It kind of encompasses both of these fields. But talking about Dobrá Vinice, so like I mentioned, they farm about 15 hectares, again, keeping their yields really low. This is one of the wineries to look out for if you're in the UK, actually. They export over to the UK through basket press wines. And so if you're living over in other parts of Europe, you might be able to grab your hands on some of these Dobrá Vinice wines. So today I decided to focus on two of their cuvées, a white cuvée and a red cuvée, talking a little bit about blends and how the different components of each grape play their role into the wines. So the first wine I'm going to do is the white cuvée blend called Cuvée Kambrium. So this is a blend of Veltliner, Grüner Veltliner, Riesling as they call it here, Riesling Krinsky, but we know it as Riesling, and Sauvignon Blanc. This is 2018. They've been making this blend for a few years, and so the 2018 vintage is their most recent. So what makes their wines special is the extreme care given to the grapes on the vine and in the cellar. So these wines have a very, very tiny amount of sulfur addition, if at all any. They're matured in old oak barrels. They remain on the lees, on those dead yeast cells for extended periods of time. For example, the white wine sees about 9 months on the lees with batonnage. What that does is it creates kind of this protective coating to the wine that prevents oxidation with this lack of sulfur that's pretty commonly used in winemaking. Sulfur acts as an antioxidant and an antimicrobial agent. So by aging and maturing the wine on the lees in barrel, you're kind of creating this safe space for that maturing juice to not be affected by outside elements. So going into this wine, it is, like I said, a blend. So 60% Grüner Veltliner, 20% Riesling Rinsky, and about 20% Sauvignon Blanc. So going into the color of this wine, it's a medium concentration lemon color, no sediment or haziness or cloudiness in the wine. These wines are unfiltered and unfined. So to not have any cloudiness or sediment in these wines is pretty impressive. I admire the clarity in the wine, considering the fact that there's no fining agents during the vinification of this wine. So pretty cool. And the nose is just uber complex, as you would expect from a blend, but even more so having those 9 months on the lees. It's kind of creamy and marzipan-y and lemony. And some yellow apple, kind of a quince fruit. But really a deep, really pronounced nose. It's not overly fruity. I would put this wine at a more earthy, kind of nutty aromatic. But yes, very, very doughy and bready and then quite complex. But medium bodied. And it, again, has that slight creaminess coming in on that mid palate. The acid is medium. Considering you're having pretty high acid grapes, you have Veltliner, Sauvignon Blanc, and Riesling, which are the trifecta for acid in white wine. This wine shows really pleasant acidity. And it's just so refreshing and drinkable. And it's not like any of the tropical fruit kind of notes that I get sometimes with Riesling or Sauvignon Blanc in this region. It has much more of an austere kind of sensation to it. It's much more bold and much more complex. And like I said, this creamy, doughy texture on the mid palate. But it's just delicious. Asparagus is in season, and I can only imagine this with like an asparagus kind of bechamel kind of sauce, something like that, a light pasta. But for a biodynamic kind of natural wine, this wine is clean. It does not show any Brettanomyces or any kind of oxidation notes to it. This wine is really succinct and great acidity and just absolutely crushable. So Dobrá, Vinice, dig in your white blends. Going into the red, and yes, there are red wines in South Moravia. Believe it, they are here to stay and they are delicious. So this is their Trojka, meaning 3. This is their 2016 Trois, or Trojka red blend. It's a cuvée of Pinot Noir, Zweigelt, and Frankovka, also known as Blaufränkisch. So in terms of percentages, you're looking at 40% Pinot Noir, 40% Zweigelt, and 20% Frankovka, or Blaufränkisch. So their red wines, again, go through this really long, extensive maceration period, 30-day pre-fermentation maceration. So a lot of extract coming from those skins and the tannins. The wine is then matured in a combination of barrels. So you're looking at a 500 liter and a 225 liter barrique old oak barrel. What that does, it incorporates a slight amount of oxidation, allowing for the wine to kind of open up, gain a little structure, get a little bit more tannin structure, and be a little bit less rough around the edges. So going into their red Cuvée blend, the Trojka, so about a medium to pale ruby color, kind of just balancing between the two. I'd call it medium minus. Again, no haziness or cloudiness or sediments in the wine. The wine's clear. Again, unfined, unfiltered wines, but with a great clarity to them. And the nose definitely is picking up a little bit of that oak. There's a little bit of spice, but you're getting a great backbone of black currant fruit and black plum. Kind of a rum raisin note to it, black cherry. Tiny hints of white pepper as well. Not surprised, there's some Zweigelt in here. So that white pepper is kind of typical of that nose for Zweigelt. And there's a slight, kind of like a charred smokiness on the nose too. Not overly so. It's definitely more, a little bit of a spice, more of that black fruit driven character. But that little bit of smoke at the end on the nose is really pleasant. So put that wine about medium body, pleasant acidity again, not this piercing acidity that you might find with grapes like Zweigelt and Pinot Noir, but really balanced. I think that medium tannin, that little bit of oak maturation. It sees about 14 months in oak barrel, again on the lees. So you're looking at these wines in their truest, most natural form. But a lot of black plum notes actually coming through on the palate as well. And really kind of this little bit of like orange peel on the palate, this little pithy orange peel just on the finish, but it makes you want to drink more. It has this really balanced acidity that's just making me want to keep sipping it. But yeah, this wine's at 13.5% alcohol, which is right where it should be. You're not looking at these overly extracted wines. You're looking at really pleasant wines, considering 30-day maceration period and over a year in oak, but super balanced, still fruit driven, and just really pleasant to drink. I did put a chill on this wine before popping it open for this video, which I recommend for red wines here in the region. They tend to be a little bit lighter bodied, so half hour in the fridge is really all you need, but it kind of helps to soften that astringency, kind of smooth around the edges a little bit. But Dobrá Vinice, I love your wine. I am so excited to have a few more bottles of these hanging out. So if you want to try these wines, I'll list their website here. They do a great service online with their e-shop. You can contact them directly. I contacted Andrea, and within a day I had a response, and she speaks English wonderfully, so it was such a relief to be able to communicate that way. And yeah, head down to Novi Schaldorf. That's where their cellar is. Go take a look for yourself. I know there's a big push for these wines, especially in the whole natural wine scene here in Brno, and I'm happy I got my hands on some of these bottles. And in fact, I have this monthly column I've been writing about for Com. This past month, I wrote about Welch Riesling. You can find it, it's always in the English section. It's towards the end of the magazine, so you can see my face there. But next month, I'm talking a little bit about natural wines, so check out next month's copy. Also, there's a lot natural wine stuff going on, so if you are interested in more natural wines, go ahead and follow Natural Wine Fest on Instagram and Facebook. They're doing these great pop-up events. There was one this past Wednesday featuring a few of the wines that they're bringing in. They're opening up a shop on my streets on Pekarska in August, so I am stoked. These guys are great. They have wonderful taste in wine, and they speak English as well. So if you need advice on some natural wines in the region, go ahead and reach out to them. They're super nice and really helpful. Later in November, keep your eyes peeled for the redate the postponement of the Natural Wine Fest. I will certainly be there, so I hope to see all of you natural wine people out there. But prior to November, I'm hoping to make a trip down to Dobrá, Vinice and Nový Šaldorf. There's a few other wineries I want to hit up. Great wines down in this region and so much to discover and explore. So cheers to Dobrá Vinice making biodynamic wine, one of the first in the region for 20 years. So you're rocking it. I love your wine. I'm so excited to have these to enjoy this weekend. So cheers from Brno. Thanks for keeping it biodynamic, organic down there in Nový Šaldorf. And I hope to see you in your cellar soon. And so again, those of you looking out for some natural wines, hit me up. Hit up the guys from Natural Wine Fest. We are raging here with the natural wines in Brno. So always an adventure to explore and taste more delicious local wines. Cheers from Brno. Enjoy the weekend. Ahoy.